Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of the Blackbird Grimoire. Welcome to the daily forecast for Monday, December 9th, 2024. It is the 19th of Sagittarius. It is the day of Mrs. Claus, and as you can see, she is busy doing something with her knitting. And I tell you what, the colder it is, the more I get out my knitting needles. Let me know in the comments if there are any other ladies or gentlemen who happen to knit. We should really form ourselves a little circle. But moving on, today's astrology, the sun is in Sagittarius, mutable fire, representing adventure. The moon begins the day void of course, and then at 7:38 a.m. Central Time, it moves into second quarter Aries, cardinal fire, and this time it's going to represent beginnings. Mercury is retrograding in Sagittarius, mutable fire, which represents travel disruptions. Venus is in Aquarius, fixed air, which represents the intellectual. Mars is retrograding in Leo, fixed fire, which represents tempered action. Jupiter is retrograding in Gemini, mutable air, which is to broaden perspective. Saturn is in Pisces, mutable water, representing nostalgia. Uranus is retrograding in Taurus, fixed earth, representing rebellion. Neptune is in Pisces, mutable water, representing intuition. And Pluto's in Aquarius, fixed air, representing reformation. For the retrogrades, for Mercury, rethink communication patterns. For Mars, reconsider what you really want. For Jupiter, reconnect with your true path. For Uranus, reconsider how you rebel. And for Chiron, restore the heroic spirit. Our moon continues to be a waxing gibbous, so root into your plans and refine where needed. For the theme of the Aries moon, it's initiative and independence. Aries has always been very much, well, let's get up, let's get going. What are we waiting for? I can't be bothered to wait on you. We must charge forward valiantly. That is the energy with which Aries attacks things. So the day of the moon traditionally leans towards things being a little bit more introverted, but because of that Aries moon, today is going to be a day for moving full steam ahead, out loud, publicly, no apology. That's the direction we're going. So we have this double whammy of fire from solar Sagittarius and the lunar Aries, and that's going to provide us with plenty of energy to draw upon for our projects. So be prepared to get a really strong start to the week off. Our tarot for the today is the list. Now, the list corresponds with the traditional card of judgment in the major arcana. It's number 20, so it represents transformation. And the keywords for this card are judgment, redemption, and rebirth. So we see the hand of what I presume to be Santa Claus. Making a list of who's naughty, who's nice, checking it twice, and all that good stuff. So we might take this moment as an opportunity to reflect about, how do we actually behave ourselves? And I would put this to us because I think sometimes we can get so lost in the pagan world with research and trying to find out what's what in exact details and worrying about these things that in many cases we can never be 100% confident about. That I think sometimes we forget that the point of all of this is to better connect with divinity and to forge our characters and our conduct into being better people on the whole. That's the point of it. I mean, I don't think that when the time comes for any of us to shed the mortal coil and we pass through the veil and we're confronted with the gods and our ancestors, I don't think they're going to be giving us a test about various points of theology and seeing whether or not we got that exactly right. I think any judgment we might receive or any of yeah, anything of that nature, I think that'd be much more focused upon what kind of person were you? How did you treat people? Things of that nature. And so I think that this is just a good time to just contemplate a little bit, but not just contemplate, but also saying, I don't always come up to scratch, and let's face it, none of us do. But today I'm making an effort. And this is another way to make good use of all of that fiery energy because there's nothing quite like fire for transformation and also for putting things into action and having a sustaining drive to do so. So draw upon the astrological energies wisely and while keeping this particular tarot card in mind. Our triad of the day is this: three initiations of wisdom, lawful teaching, effective customs, and instinctive love. So, lawful teaching, this isn't just any old teaching on any old subjects. This would be teaching that at its core is about conveying facts, providing practical knowledge, and being something that's very wholesome for people. This isn't about tearing people down. This is about teaching them how they can build themselves up, how they can construct a life, how they can earn a living in an honorable fashion, and also I think that that ties in with family relations of making sure that we are learning to mind our manners. I remember I forget where I saw it, but there was someone who was explaining in Japan. I think for the first year or so of school, what's really focused upon is the children learning good manners. And that's something that I think we could stand to take a few notes from our neighbors. I think it would be very much to children's benefit to have an education that also incorporated how you behave yourself in a nice way. How can we learn to control our emotions to where we're not, letting our bliss get on absolutely everyone else, including people, who, whatever problem we're having, they were not involved in that. So why are they experiencing the consequences of that? Learning when to rein things in, learning when to share and open up, understanding that different degrees of acquaintance involve different levels of emotional intimacy and understanding the differences between those things. I think that could go a long way to not only setting up the kids for success, but also preventing future behavioral issues down the line. So that's something that came to mind as I was contemplating this. Then effective customs. Good customs, promote virtue. They upbuild human relationships. It provides social cohesion. And I think this is something that in America we very easily lose sight of because we're all focused on being very individual all the time that we forget that you can't have a nation of complete strangers. That doesn't work very well. And all of the division and the acrimony we've experienced has shown that we do need to refocus upon what common ground that we do have. And one of those things that can provide common ground is taking part in common customs. This is one reason why when I did my video about Santa and Mrs. Claus and examining as archetypes of the season, well, I said, I think, maybe we should start instead of trying to separate everything out, start seeing that, Yule and even Christmas on the Christian side, these are things that are an amalgamation of customs and traditions that have been woven together over a period of centuries. And maybe rather than trying to unravel the weave, we just say, look, we have this common heritage. Let's enjoy it. Let's not worry about, some of the details of our differences, at least for a little while. Let's focus upon what it is that we are able to share and finding common ground and being able to enjoy each other's company in a more relaxed way. I do think there's opportunity for that. And then instinctive love, finding the good, understanding how a one part of things and of which we are a part of all things that plays a role into the whole, accepting natural law, because once we accept that nature works in particular ways, and yes, we're only beginning to understand all of that is, but based upon the understanding that we have, accepting those things, not expecting, we're not fighting against it, not trying to rewrite the natural order to suit ourselves that I think that does make us more apt to love, more apt to see the purpose that every being and everything actually has, and um, and not seeking to meddle and not seeking to go and try to pursue some kind of illusion of utopia. There's nothing more destructive to people right now is than their desperate attempts to pursue a utopia that could never be, a utopia that does not take into account human nature or natural law, or whether even the aims of that utopia are fitting, proper, and right. The utopia, perfection, these things are poison to the soul. They make the perfect the enemy of the good, and it prevents us from actually loving things because we're so busy criticizing everything. So that's another thing too. I think that's worth bearing in mind. Today's magical correspondences are on the theme of communication, but specifically with ancestors. For this, the color is silver, the plant is the violet, the animal is the pigeon, and the crystal is clear calcite. So, just because Mercury is currently in retrograde, it doesn't mean that you have to helplessly put up with its influence. We can use our skills to improve our state of communication. And of course, This also includes with perhaps those who have passed beyond the veil. It's not only with Samhain that we find ourselves reaching out, especially as we get closer and closer to the 12 days of Yule. That is so family oriented and family focused, and that includes the family who have preceded us in death. And even if we aren't necessarily going to receive a message back from them, we can certainly send one to them. Letting them know they are still loved, they are still valued. The family is still remaining strong, and we could actually incorporate that perhaps into our Yule festivities, choosing a night where we gather with the relatives, or at least with our kids, and we talk about the family. Where they've been, what they've done. Their funny little quirks and stories. This informs people of their heritage. It helps them reconnect with everyone, and also it gets us more in the hub of communication. And if you happen to have an ancestor who's lingering around, it lets them know that they are still valued, and I think that matters. Today's hearthkeeping hint, it is all about those little cooks and crannies and hidden away closets and things that can get all kinds of out of order. So the first tip is that, employing shelves, boxes, other containers, that makes keeping closets and, and any other kind of storage space in proper order so much easier because things are already contained. And if you have a container, you can label the container. And frequent straightening and maintaining the organization scheme that you have, that prevents a lot of stagnant energy because things are still moving about and roving as they should. Nothing's going to get stuck because stagnant energy eventually turns into baneful energy. And you don't want that, particularly not with all of the planets in retrograde at the, well, not all the planets, but so many of them in retrograde at the moment, especially with Yuletide coming up and more encounters with friends and family. We don't need gunky energy in our space, and that includes storage spaces. And also, if you are able to keep up with it, it is such a huge time saver because you can immediately find what you're looking for. When it's time to put something away, it already has a place. You don't have to redo everything from scratch. It makes so much difference to do this. It makes life so much easier. So if this is something that you've been wanting to do, but you haven't quite worked up the gumption, well, I'm telling you, put it into practice. Do what you can today, even if it's only working on it for 30 minutes after you get home from work. Make use of that Aries and that Sagittarian energy. Get something done for yourself that decreases stress, improves the energy in the home, and just can make you have a sense of accomplishment. Then for our practice today, the Yule season is an excellent time for both fire and water cleansing rituals. If you have a space where you can have a bonfire, freaking awesome. If you have snow that you can collect the snow to later melt and use that for cleansing, even better. But if you don't have the benefits of that, we can still do a great deal through candle magic and through blessing water that we even get through our taps. We can still work with what we've got. But for those of you who have the luxury of bonfires and collecting snow for snow water, make the most of the blessings that you have. And I also, if we don't have that advantage, anyone watching, learning not to envy people for the blessings that they have, I think that goes a long way towards improving mental health. Being glad for them, and also saying, you know what, I'm going to set some goals and see if I can't bring myself a little bit closer to the dream. Even if it takes a couple of years, that's another way of looking at things. Mondays are also a great day to greet the dusk. And then the Snow Queen archetype, what wisdom does she convey? For meditation, you might focus on the theme of the strength of the dark. And this could be, dark as in, internal workings, dark as in, the physical dark. Just think about that. And, for the bazillionth time, for anyone who hasn't heard me preach the sermon before, in craft and in paganism, dark is not equated with evil or wrongdoing of any kind. Darkness is that which is hidden. Darkness is the water. It is the earth. It is the interior of the womb. It is things that is just it's not being. The dark is that which is going inwards. It is the receptive energy. So please don't take this meditation prompt in a way that was definitely not intended. And also, lastly, today you might carry or wear some selenite. For Creative Corner, I give you Yuletide embroidery. I found so many cute examples on Pinterest. If you go on Amazon or go on Etsy, there are some people who've already made the finished product. There are other people who are selling various patterns that you could work upon. And remember also that embroidery is far more than just a pretty craft, as pretty as it is. But with the intentional choice of colors, varying your stitch types with intention, uh, focusing upon your subject matter, you can really tailor it to any season or any magical intention. This might be a nice thing for you to take up over the winter season. Now, granted, if you have cats, as so many of us do, that can be challenging, and the cats are not to be trusted with a string ever. However, if you can work around the kitty cats, you can create some really beautiful things for your home that also have spiritual significance for you. Give it a whirl if you are so inclined. Now, for our journal prompt, define dark in the context of magical energy. I gave you a little brief explanation of that a few moments ago, but really think about that. And also, this is the reason why I suggested this prompt is so that in order to encourage people to really divorce themselves from the Abrahamic worldview, where light equals good and dark equals bad. That's not how things really function in nature. Uh, and so divorcing ourselves from that particular paradigm, learning not to describe it in those terms. If something is bad, we just say bad. If it's not good energy, we can say baneful. Learning how to describe what we are actually intending to convey much more precisely. I think that benefits us. I think can also help improve people's understanding of how magical energies function, which is beneficial whether you're part of the craft or not. And I think as we this understanding becomes more commonplace, or at least more talked about, I think that is also a way to really distinguish ourselves in our conversations, and also for people who are new or for people who are just investigating to say, okay, what are the pagans up to? They can understand our frame of reference a little bit more easily, and they can stop imposing their ideas onto us as if it's just this kind of universal thing. It isn't. So that's a little something to go into your journal today if you're inclined. On that, have a magical day. I wish you bright blessings, all the joys of the seasons. Come back again tomorrow for the next edition of the Daily Forecast. Let me know what you thought of this one in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.